Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Spiritual Unity Radio Network, a station dedicated to the concept that all manifestations of the divine are equally valid. Join Reverend Terry Power HP, Robin McKean, and all the hosts for programming covering a wide range of spiritual topics, right here on Blog Talk Radio.
Enter the realm of living myth. Voice of Olympus, hosted by Hercules Invictus and Athena Victory, celebrates the mythic impulses of ancient Greece and Rome, and they invite you to celebrate with them. Welcome to Voice of Olympus.
Greetings, this is Hercules Invictus. Welcome to the Voice of Olympus e-radio show on the Spiritual Unity Radio Network. Athena's off adventuring and she might be joining us a little later on. Tonight, we have author and artist Alden Morris, who has done a lot of interesting things that I think should be shared. Welcome, Alden, to the Voice of Olympus.
Thank you very much.
Now, I first became aware of you on Facebook through your articles on health, and then I took an exceptional interest in you when you did your astrological series, also on YouTube and in also Natural News. But your voice extends much further than that. So I'd like for us to take a stroll through your exciting journey as an artist and author.
Oh, sounds good to me. Well, let's first start with some of the first research that I did, because I think that's pretty much where I can best explain how I got started to where I am now.
Okay.
I'm Greek, so family speaking, I've grown up, celebrating my Greek pride and celebrating my Nordic roots on my mother's side and the Greek roots on my father's side. And so I've always understood who I am. It wasn't until I got older that I started understanding the importance of who I come from. So when you look into, genealogical research and, countries here and there and, the impact that they've made on not just the world but civilizations and cultures, it's flattering to know that Greek culture is still predominantly strong in Western culture today. So I took that as a sign that, obviously I have a lot more research to do and I have a lot to live up to if I want to make, my family proud, my ancestors proud. At the same time, I was also questioning my own ideological beliefs. I presumed I was Catholic. I was born into a Roman Catholic family and, I had my questions and my feelings and things. Once I got older and I understood that there are other options out there that don't completely constrict your beliefs and your intelligence and, have those specific guidelines of not reaching out because of blasphemy, things like that. And it's okay to learn as much as you can. That's when I realized that ancient Greek philosophers and all the way up till today had almost virtually a religion that was based on intelligence or enlightenment. And that's when I realized that, hey, that connects to the founding of our nation here in America. So it all just started connecting and clicking for me. So I just kept researching and researching. I fully adopted my ancestral gods, my ancestral beliefs. The only downfall about that was that there's not too many people who have done that, and there's not too many people in my area who have done that for their Greek culture. One thing that I've respected and highly have been grateful for was the fact that a lot of Germanic families in my area have taken the same transition into accepting their ancestral worship and their ancestral gods, and they said and communicate and build with others on those types of things. So, although they're not meeting up and worshiping Zeus and Aphrodite and Apollo, they're meeting up and they're worshiping Thor and Odin and Frey. So, yeah, different names, same emotions, same incentives. So, got to meet those people, and I do have roots on the Germanic side with my mother's side of the family, so it was comfortable to be in and learn and share and adopt and adapt as well. So that's pretty much what I've been doing when it comes to religious. Ever increasing my research, which is
I'm losing
definitely
you,
a
Alden.
religion that comes with research.
I'm losing our connection's kind of breaking apart.
Let me adjust where I'm at real quick.
Okay, are you on a cell phone?
Yes, I am.
Because that happens to me when I talk to people on the cell phone. We always lose each other, and it's a repositioning contest until we find each other again.
Yeah, there seems to be there's snow over here in Washington today, which is a rare thing, so that does have an impact on our cell phone reception. Let me step outside where I can actually enjoy the snow. How's that? Is that a little better?
That's a lot better. Thank you. We share much in common there. I'm Greek also, but I've explored many other cultures. I've kind of been playing hide and seek with my ancestral gods and finding them in these different pantheons. And my longest walks were in the Celto-Norse areas, northeastern Europe. And my wife, Athena, her background is Celto-Nordic, and she spent a lot of time with the Greek spirituality. So between us, we have pretty much the same mix of heritages and ideas as you also found a lot of meaning in.
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because one of the things that I realized when I was doing my research and adopting my own ancestral gods is it comes with a feeling of loneliness too, because even if you have Greek people around you, they may have not accepted their old ancestral ways, and if you go to Greece now, you're almost thought of as silly for believing in the old gods. And when you think about it, why is it that way? It's the church. It's the Catholic Church in Greece, the Greek Orthodox Church. They're so powerful. In fact, even Greece doesn't have freedom of religion, unlike America. And there are founding democracies. Like they gave us the world we know. So it comes right back to Christianity, control, power, politics. And so if you find me online, you'll see that I'm very, very politically involved and very politically opinionated. And that, again, stems from my Greek roots and my Greek beliefs, where people were very adamant about their freedom. So that's what I love
very
about
true.
Nordic culture. Nordic culture, they love to express themselves. So they'll be damned if they have someone tell them they can't believe in something. And so they kind of set the marker when it comes to fighting for your beliefs, as we set the marker for fighting for your rights. So I definitely have adopted both virtues and like to apply them to both fields to help anybody who comes along to see the same thing if they find themselves that way.
That is awesome that you're doing that. We're involved in a lot of interfaith efforts because people are killing each other and demonizing each other over differences of opinion as to why we're here and what this is all about. And that's very tragic because the spiritual journey is one that should liberate you from such concerns. But alas, it does not on this planet anyway. So we've been doing a lot of work with universalist and synchronistic type of belief systems like theosophy and ascensionism that pretty much they grew out of the Greco-Egyptian and Babylonian era of the Hellenistic age. And then they went underground and became different magical systems until Helena Petrovna Blavatsky and others brought them back out of the underground again with the Theosophical Society, which extended the circle beyond the Hellenistic age into the Orient and into India. So there's they arose after the darkness that came from the Phoenicians not moving around doing commerce. Everyone had their rites and rituals and myths and so forth. And during the age of Alexander, horrific as that was in many ways with all the conquest and killing, people were able to communicate again because there was a political unity, and they discovered that even though the details of their myths might be a little bit different, a lot of their esoteric information was near identical. So they concluded back then that there was an exoteric side to religion, which is the regional cultural, and it contained truths, but they were hidden behind allegories and parables. And then there was the esoteric information, which was similar everywhere, and that contained the reality of what was behind the religion, and it was kind of universal. And that started to, that awareness started to spread until, of course, again, there was repression and all sorts of things going on, and then it went underground. So we're working to try to get this communication system up and running again so that people can believe whatever they want. They should have the freedom to pursue the universal in their own way, but there's a system in place for communicating and exchanging ideas without the exclusivism that sometimes happens.
Well, and it's still like I mentioned before, we're a country, the United States here, with a value of freedom of religion, but it's not always the case. We can tell you that you're free to believe in whatever you want, but if you want to pursue, like me and you, for example, these beliefs and expand upon them, share them, well, you need help from your country. You need, churches, for example, have tax write-offs. There's so many benefits that, when you're an organized establishment that you can help share with the people, and your government appreciates that and lends you help and gives you, these breaks to allow you to be able to do those kinds of things. But, when it comes to, beliefs that are, ancient, thousands and thousands of years old, they don't recognize that as something that, they would like to help you with to spread upon people in your country. And a part of that is, I think that the people who are in power are a lot smarter than we give them credit for, and they know that when, the general population branches out and they take on a faith that is based upon enlightenment, that they'll become too smart and you cannot control them anymore.
That's a very astute observation.
Well, it's my example stems from Rome in 333 AD with the Council of Nicaea, when they finally decided to go ahead and adopt Christianity as the primary religion. And it took hundreds and hundreds of years for that to finally happen. In fact, anybody who claimed Christian was often, assumed a slave because it was a slave's religion. And,
initially, yes.
They were, either put to death, fed to the lions. Basically back then you were, to worship the goddess Hygeia was to take a bath, to prevent illness. Yes. And if you became Christian, you didn't believe in that anymore. So you were to be dirty and to spread disease because that was your god. So it was a societal defect. If you look at what happened after the adoption of Christianity globally, the plague came right after. Everyone started fighting. It took a couple hundred years for some of the Arabian philosophers to go down into Asia Minor and to collect some of the ancient Greek texts. And so, what like Asclepius wrote, for example, on how to properly treat yourself with medicine, and the shift, again, with Western culture, so that way we can re-enlighten ourselves. We have, the Arabians to thank for that. So.
Yeah, the Greek pantheon, however, and a lot of Greek beliefs survived at those dark times through art, ironically. And for a lot of people, it was the only way they can see nude art because of these classical stories. So whereas there was a lot of repression, the mythological pantheon was pagan and ancient, so they often depicted them in nude or semi-nude manners. And it's a very strange way for ideas to survive, but that happened to be true for a good long time. A lot of people now, when I tell them that my spirituality is mythical, and you said that in Greece it's considered silly by a lot of people, it's because a lot of people think of the ancient religions as they view religion now, and it was a very different thing in antiquity.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, and when I've talked to, so for example, a lot of my dad's side of the family is Greek, and they're very Greek Orthodox and very upper class, very well researched, very well off. All of them are highly educated, and they understand my beliefs, but they look at, and I'm not offended by it, but I can tell they look at it as like a form of baby steps, like religion is like it evolves, for example, like paganism was the baby version of religion, and now Christianity is supposed to be the adult version. In reality, it's the exact opposite. If you actually come out of your ideological monotheistic beliefs and accept a polytheistic belief, you actually literally open yourself up to so many new things that you're a more open person. If your ideological beliefs allow you to open and read into other topics, that you as a person is more accepting.
Did you go to Greek parochial school or Catholic school when you were young?
No. My grandmother saved me from those. She actually told me that I won't go to those because, I went to one, and it was a mixed blessing. There was the repression and so forth, but they also gave me a very thorough grounding in Greek mythology, the philosophers, ancient pagan religion, got a smattering of speaking ancient Greek and Byzantine Greek and all of this stuff. So even though the heaven had changed, everything else kind of remained the same. And I went to Greece many times as a child, and my people come from Lemnos, which is the island of the Amazons and Jason and the Argonauts. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And back then it was very medieval, so a lot of the folk beliefs still survive. They didn't have the pagan connotations, but a lot of the practices that existed in antiquity were still being enacted in these remote villages. So in a way, the Greek Orthodox education gave me all of this stuff. And later on, the repressive aspects came in because I read the Bible and I had questions, and I was told after asking my questions that that I can't read the Bible anymore because it's leading me to apostasy and heresy. And I was even forbidden to go to religion class because I was asking these questions. But I was sincerely curious at first, and then later on it became, of course, I was nearing my teen years, defiant. But that's a gift I got from the Greek parochial school. I don't think anything else could have given me as well-rounded an education in matters ancient as the Greek parochial school did. And I lucked out in my family in that their opinion has been that I've been interested in Olympus since childhood, so I'm going to Olympus. But because we're Greek, we have special rules. There's a special paradise for pagans, like with the Catholics. And also because we're Greek, we could visit each other in whatever heaven we happen to be in. So, I guess that's a special rule that applies to Greeks. But they had that belief, and my family's actually embraced a lot of different religions. Although the core of my family was Greek Orthodox, my sister's also married outside the faith. So there's a lot of different faiths represented, and as long as we're all family and as long as we're all Greek or married to a Greek, then it's okay. I lucked out that way.
Well, and I guess one of the things that really opened up my eyes, especially when I was younger, is in my family, we're no strangers to death. We have a lot of death that occurs in my family. I don't know if it's because we have such a big family or just a very unique and unorthodox type family, but here's just a quick tidbit is 2001, my grandfather died. I was raised by my grandmother. In 2014, my mother died, and just this past November, my grandmother passed away. My yaya passed away in 2012. My grandpa Morris on my father's side passed away on 2013. So just so on and so forth. So, and not to mention, the uncles and the aunts and the cousins, and so our family's definitely no stranger to death. And so when these events occur, we have family gatherings, and you get a chance to really get to know some of the people that you don't get to see every day in your family. And I'm a person who I think it was something that my grandmother taught me, but I've always been told and I've always figured that there's more than two sides to a story, two sides to a topic. There's always a third perspective. And so, for example, like if there's an argument, she said, well, they both could be wrong, one of them could be right. It's the people who see the other perspective that can tell you who's wrong or right. And it's the same thing in courts. That's why we have juries. Again, that comes from Greek democracy. Greek culture. So when I talk to family members who are predominantly Christian about death, they still have a lot of anxiety and fear when it comes to death, as if death is still a mystery and unanswered. And I've actually been to members who claim Christianity and go to church every Sunday, Catholicism, whatnot, that they are afraid to die. And I've always thought that peculiar because I've always been curious to what happens when we die, and I've always known that it's okay when that time comes because of how many family members have already made that transition, and shown us that, you know, it can be done. Everyone's going to go through it, like puberty. I've in a sense lost my fear of death because of my ideological beliefs, and I think that's where I had come up with the maturity difference in religious aspects. Because Christianity was built on the remains of paganism. They use all of our temples, all of our altars, all of our holidays. Christmas, for example, Easter, for example. Where does a bunny come from in Christianity? You know, where does the egg come from in Christianity? They have to make up these silly stories for you to understand why they have these symbolic relations. But if you really delve into it, they stem right back to paganism, and paganism taught us that when we die, it's just the next chapter. It's no different than going to sleep at night and waking up for the next day. So I think that was the biggest thing for me, why I had to leave the monotheistic belief, was to see everyone so afraid of something that we're all going to go through. Nevertheless, that's
very true. We're all going to die. That's one of the certainties. If you're born, you're going to die. And it is part of our reality, and a lot of people are afraid and anxious about it.
Well, and if it's unanswered, if you don't have the answer for what happens after you die, or you don't have a complete answer, or you don't have comfort and security and stability and, you know, a sense of safeness, then they'll ask questions. They'll start to get concerned. They'll start to branch out. And then there's not a good answer to me. It just doesn't. It's how boring. I don't know if you're aware of Stephen Fry.
No.
He's a British comedian. He's been around for quite some time, but he went down to the Utah Mormon temple and kicked off the property because they said when you die you get to spend all the time with your family in heaven. And he said, well, what if you don't want to be? So they asked him to leave the property now because he was questioning their beliefs. But he made a good point. He said, there's members of your family that, you know, you can't stand. There's people in the world that you just can't stand. Why would you want to be stuck with them in heaven? You know, like, there's this, to have an idea that you're going to go to one spot forever and that's it, doesn't sit well with a lot of children even. They're still curious to what happens after. And if you look at, you know, if you're Nordic or if you're Greek, you have Valhalla, you have the Elysian Fields, you have all these different levels of consciousness that they explain to you. And it's a journey through out of our body. It's a spiritual journey, and somehow our ancient ancestors knew this, and that's the beauty of it, is we're just in the middle of this journey, and there's another chapter after this.
It's true, too. A lot of people don't realize the depth. I'm spending an entire year teaching the realm of dreams in the Greek mythological and philosophical traditions, and I'm spending another year about the journey through the classical planets. And there's a very rich tradition full of lots of material, but because most people's exposure is through the mythology, they tend to dismiss it as children's stories or fairy tales, but it is a very rich tradition.
Well, what I really appreciate about when I checked out your website and looked into your show and everything is mythology is just a Greek word for history. So, if anything, when you study mythology, you're studying history. So we have to remind ourselves that these stories aren't myths; they are history. Myths it's a Greek word for history that the English word has bastardized to make us believe it's something silly. So we have to almost reteach ourselves through our own language what of something when we hear that word, and that's another thing. They change the world ideological beliefs over it. They put a lot of different meanings on the same word. So
That's very true. Last week I was talking to Dr. Michael Heiser, who's a biblical scholar, and we were talking about this. Like the Greek word daimonos meant an intermediary spirit with no good or bad attached to it, and an angelos was simply an intermediary spirit that delivered messages, and that became angel and then demon. And so if you're listening to ancients talk about those things, they're not talking about the same thing that we mean today. The same way noble and gentle, if you read medieval texts, noble and gentle people could hack away at peasants without a problem because it was tied into nobility and the gentry. It doesn't mean the same thing today. So these words take on different meanings. And when we're looking at the past, that's something else we need to keep in mind as well.
Well, and I've had debates with Christians that say that, part of the reason why paganism ended was because there was so much slaves. And, they're right. The pagans were not perfect. There was a caste system, and if you think about it, every religion, every culture has a caste system, so it's not a religious problem, it's a human problem. We have a tendency just as humans, regardless of what we believe in, to assume that we're better than someone else because we can do something or do something else. So we naturally create these caste systems regardless of our spirit, of our cultural identity. So when he brought that up, it was a really good point in the debate, and I had to, go home and really think about that and do more research. But I'm glad that, I can talk with people, and like I said earlier, I love to listen to people's ideas and opinions regardless of where they come from because it teaches me more and it challenges me more, and that's what my religion is, enlightenment. I got to go home and study so I can talk to you tomorrow.
That's a very good way of looking at it, too, because when I teach, and I teach a great deal, I always preface or end my talks or my classes with, I've been interested in this stuff my entire life. I'm almost 60, so I've been, for like half a century, I've been wandering around collecting facts and thinking about them and comparing them and talking to people and so forth. What I'm sharing with them is my best understanding. But somebody in the room might say something to change my mind, or something might happen tomorrow that gives me a totally new perspective, in which case I'm going to change what I'm saying. So I never ask anybody to believe, what I'm telling them. It's good information. I've spent a lifetime thinking about this stuff and researching it, but that's just it. It's just my opinions at this particular point in time based on what I understand and what I currently see, so.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with that. And that's what brought me to how I am today, because I started naturally questioning my beliefs at a young age and doing as much research as I could at a young age. But it wasn't until my later teen years that I actually could take on a lot more research and really, really start to push myself because, you have all these other distractions, school and hormones and extracurricular activities, graduation, you have all these things that you can do in society, everyday life. But once you get to that point where you actually are your own man, your own woman, you have your own life in control, instead of going off and, having distractions, I actually stayed home and studied and wanted to learn about, something bigger than, what should I...
I'm losing you again.
Here. Sorry. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, I can hear you better now, but it's still a little tinny and distant.
I am going to take my speakerphone off to see if that helps.
Okay, you sound good now, though.
Do I sound better?
That sounds a lot better. We've gone through
Perfect.
2/3 of your segment already. You're such a fascinating person to talk to that a couple of your topics that I really want to hear about, we'll have to schedule you for another show. So today, after the break, we're going to talk about myths in the night sky, because that was what the segment was called. And I'm going to have you back on to talk about agorism, your articles in the Natural News, and your wonderful video, Ulfhednar, and I had questions about that as well. So I'll have you on other shows. And also, we have the Mount Olympus intrafaith and interfaith councils. And we discuss things on the show. So the intrafaith is for people who hold like Olympian beliefs. And the interfaith is anybody who believes in anything. what do you call it? Just basically looking at things like what called you to your religion. How did you know your religion was right for you? If you're leading people, what qualifies you to be a leader? You know, we look at universal questions and then we examine them from different perspectives. We do that once a month. If you'd like to join in on that, I'd be happy to invite you. And then whenever you're free on the day we're doing the show, you know, you could be included in that and bring your understanding to these questions as well.
Oh, yes, I'd like that very much.
Okay, very awesome. We're going to go to break now, and we're going to listen to Becca Kelsaw's Odyssey, not because it's about the ancient Greek myth, because it isn't, but because the title is about the ancient Greek myth. So we'll be back, ladies and gentlemen. Greetings, this is Hercules Invictus, and you're listening to Voice of Olympus on the Spiritual Unity Radio Network. Today's guest is author-artist Alden Morris, who is also Greek and Norse, so our spiritualities are very similar here. Welcome back, Alden.
Can you hear me,
Alden? Yes, I can hear you now. How are you?
Perfect. I'm doing good. Sounds like there's a little bit of delay on my phone, but other than that, good.
Okay, I'm glad. Myths in the Night Sky. You did a series that's on Facebook and also in with your natural news writings. And I greatly enjoyed it. They're not very long, so for those of us who don't have phenomenally long attention spans, they were perfect. They started you off in earliest antiquity and brought you to ancient Greece and then beyond ancient Greece and explained to you the myths that the constellations are based on. What inspired you to do this series?
Well, exactly what you said. You know, I wanted to share my religious beliefs in a non-invasive way. I don't want to, you know, climb it down people's things. I want to come off me and like Mormons at your front door, for example. So everyone is interested in their horoscope. And so I thought, well, my people and a lot of other cultures made those horoscopes, but one of the most popular horoscopes on the planet is the Greek horoscopes. Leo, yes. Virgo, Scorpio, everyone's so proud. They get tattoos of it, but they don't know their origins. So I was like, I'm going to share the origins in a way that will not annoy people, and I'm going to keep it as short as possible, so it's like little tidbits of like, oh, wow, I learned about myself, and I feel motivated and inspired. And I did it on behalf of my ancestors. I was so proud that I, wanted to share their stuff. So I did my research on each constellation. I'm a writer for Natural News, so they gave me a platform to have a voice for just my constellation videos. So I got to write article formats for them. But if you look at my YouTube channel, you'll see the constellation series, where I do all of them in one video, then one for each constellation. And I thought that was very, very powerful, because you start to understand not just more about why your constellation is that, but also why you are the way you are. So I thought that was really important to share, and I'm very happy how popular it became. So that's definitely something that sits well with me.
It was very enjoyable, and in fact, we are doing a spin-off e-radio show that will be dealing with the astrological, astronomical aspects of the ancient myths. So I'd be honored to link to your videos and articles for people who want to start learning about that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, feel free to share all those links. I would love it.
Very awesome. I will do that by this weekend, and I'll send you a link, and this way you know where it is. And we have lots of stuff planned. I'm doing a series on the myths and the planets for our local library. I'm starting an astronomy club there because somebody donated a telescope, so this way make all that real with them. We got a few online resources too, so your articles and videos are an excellent way for them to start learning about this stuff. So thank you for making them.
Thank you. Yeah, I do have plans for more in the future. It's just a matter of getting it organized and the information presented properly. But that's what branched me out to. That's what branched me out to algorithm and the Ulfhednar work that I did with Thorfinn Odinson, which you can also find him on Facebook as well. If you'd like to have him on the show, he'd be a great guy to talk to as well.
That would be awesome. And we actually have a little bit more time, so let's get into Ulfhednar. That was a very nice video. It seemed to be like a welcoming ceremony into the group. And I like how Odin was included mysteriously at various points in the video. So what was that all about? It was very powerful.
Thank you. What inspired me with that is I met Thorfinn Odinson through some of the religious groups that I'm in as part of Facebook, and he had actually reached out to me on those constellation videos, and we had talked about doing the same type of idea for Celtic constellations, because there are 50 of them, 52 of them, one for each week of the year, and they're trees. So,
awesome.
Very extensive research, but I am interested in doing it. I would like to complete it. But he invited me down to his house, and we got a chance to hang out and do a bloat together, and I got to meet his group. He is the Godi of the Ulfhednar group. And what I love about them is, I mentioned earlier that I'm very politically opinionated and involved, and I love my Greek roots. And if you know much about Greece and our Greek ancestors, then you know the term molon labe. And
yes.
It stands here to this day. Hold on to your guns, come and take it. And he is a, I can't say prepper guy, but he does take his spiritual and ancestral beliefs and applies them to modern day living, which includes being always prepared, being always vigilant, knowing how to farm and feed yourself and survive off the land. And so he provides these classes, that are free. Just come out and hang out with them, and he teaches you how to, feed yourself off the land, take care of yourself off the land. So we had gone down there and done a couple bloats with them, shared as many ideas, and I suggested to him that we do a video that would help draw more people to some of the, not training, but enlightenment that we're providing. The show Vikings actually is the show that gave me the idea of popping in Odin in there.
I enjoyed that touch.
I didn't want it to look cheesy, but also I wanted people to understand that that's what these ceremonies are really about. You're calling upon the strength of your ancestors and their presence, even if you don't feel.
Now, I was curious about the name. I didn't read the explanation, so I was curious about the name, because an Ulfhednar means wolf's head. And there were a class of warriors like the Bear Shirts, that would go into frenzies and fight in battles, and may have inspired the werewolf legend. So I was just curious where the title came from. And Odin, of course, is famous for his wolves.
Yes, and I believe the wolf is Thorfinn's spirit animal, as where the lion is mine. And
mine too.
Yes, and I'm a Leo. So I've always known that I'm a patron of Apollo, and I'm my spirit animal is a lion. So and I've always considered myself a child of Apollo. Like how Hercules is the son of Zeus. I've always assumed I'm the son of Apollo. There's a lot of personal strength that comes with that as well. But meeting Thorfinn, him being very in touch with his gods and very in touch with his spirit animals, welcoming me with open arms into his group, regardless of the differences in the culture, that it meant a lot, especially because I don't have the groups of Greeks that are here. I just have my groups of the Norse that are here, but they set the mile marker for how things should be when more people open up to this type of spirituality. So that's something I appreciate for them, and that's something I'm going to be around for a long time.
Good, and let's. This is a topic too that we'll revisit many times on the show. Before we end the segment, how can folks learn more about your work and get in contact with you?
I would say start with my YouTube channel, just Alden Morris, my first and last name, and whatever interests you, watch those videos. I deliberately try to keep my videos at an entertaining length. So I try to never go over 5 minutes. I usually try to keep them between 2 and 4 minutes just for information purposes. But I would say look up your constellation, and if you like the information that I provided with you, be honest and share if it enlightened you, if it inspired you, if it, motivated you, if it made your self-confidence go higher, because that's the goal. And that's what, spiritually, I would like to provide for the world, is how to boost everyone's independent confidence so that that way they're no longer under the thumb of a primary monotheistic religion.
Thank you so very much, Alden, and I'm glad that our dialogue has started, and you are now officially an Interfaith Argonaut because we'll be joining our discussion, so I'm looking forward to that as well. Joyous
very
journeys.
cool. Thank
I wish you success in all of your endeavors, and I'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. I will talk to you here very soon. I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. Take care, Alden.